Hey everyone, it's Bree. Welcome back to my channel. I'm back in another video, and I am here with a very disturbing video that came across my Twitter. So there's this video going around on Twitter. Again, I am not calling that app X, okay? It is Twitter, okay? There's a video going around on Twitter of, I don't know if it was the mother or the father, whoever was watching over this child, gave the child alcohol.
Man. Ooh, that shit good. See, it do it. It do it.
Oh my god. And you know, sometimes when you see stuff like that, your mind does go to, okay, is this real? Was it actually alcohol? Did they make it look like alcohol to, you know, get views and make people think that they were doing something harmful? But I think a lot of people can tell just from the child's reaction that it truly was alcohol. And so I kind of wanted to get on here and talk about this because, again, it goes back into, you know, a lot of conversations that have been happening online about, you know, Gen Alpha and all these kids and how they're being raised, or just, again, the lack of parenting here. It's, for one, it's crazy enough because a lot of people were talking about, like, oh, you know, it's crazy to film your child drinking alcohol, but it's even crazier that the child even had alcohol in their possession to begin with. The fact that the parents gave their child alcohol to begin with at that young of an age. Again, we don't know how old this child is, but clearly the child is not even double digits. Okay, I think we can all agree to that, right? And so to give your child alcohol and film it like it's a funny joke, it's just crazy to me. And I already don't like it when parents encourage their children to curse at a young age, because when you start them young cursing, they're gonna be cursing up a storm when they get to school, and then you're gonna be shocked when you get a phone call from that person's teacher saying, hey, your child has been cursing at school, because like they don't know any better, because you aren't teaching them any better. And so here you are already putting a bottle of alcohol. And listen, I'm not very, you know, well versed on alcohol, so I can't look at that bottle and tell what type of alcohol that was, how strong it was. So if you have any idea on what that child was even drinking and how strong it may have been, let me know in the comments down below. But yeah, it's just like, it's, I don't know, it's weird, and it goes back to that whole thing. And again, I'm sorry if I offend anybody by saying this, but I don't believe that everybody should be parents. Sorry. Some people are just not meant to have children. Some people are just not equipped to have a child. I understand, you know, things happen. I understand that, you know, people have children for different reasons. But at the end of the day, I feel like there's just some people who, you know, they have children, but they don't care for them properly. They look at their child almost like a burden, or sometimes as an accessory. Like they don't really take parenting seriously. And I feel that way with like a lot of people that I see, like having kids like it's nothing, or having kids with people that they know they shouldn't have kids with.
One thing that I'm noticing when it comes to these kids is that no matter the socioeconomic background, no matter, you know, where they grew up, no matter the culture, no matter the race, one thing that I'm noticing that all of these kids seem to be saying is that their parents ain't shit. It doesn't matter if they're rich, if they're celebrities, if they're poor. It doesn't matter if they're black, if they're white, if they're Asian. It doesn't matter. All these content creator kids are coming out saying that their life was hell. All these celebrity kids are coming out and saying that their parents were shitty and weren't around. And all these teachers are saying that these kids can't read. Where are these parents? It's like, where the fuck are they? That's crazy that all of these kids, it doesn't matter any of the small things that make them different. It's one thing that seems to hold up with all of these kids, is they're saying that their parents weren't around, their parents weren't involved. But the parents are not being held accountable, and they refuse to be held accountable, and nobody's holding them accountable. What is going on? Like, it's like they push the damn kids out, dress them up, put them on TV, record vlogs, take pictures of them for social media, and they don't want shit else to do with them. Where the fuck are these parents? People are having babies for content. You created a person for content. People be adopting kids for content. They will have a baby for a storyline. What the hell? After, I swear it's like I'm living in a Twilight Zone or something. And I can only imagine what it's like to be the actual child. Y'all don't give a fuck about children. Y'all don't. These kids are growing up in hell. And then if you try to say something about it, I'm doing the best that I can. You know what you're getting into. Everybody knows by this point what you're getting into when you lay down with somebody to conceive a child. We all know that excuse is over with. It's done. You know.
You know, again, you make whatever decision you feel is best for you and your body and, you know, whatever. But when you decide, first of all, when you decide to lay down with somebody unprotected, you should go into it with the mindset and the understanding that something could happen. And that's why, again, live your life, do what you want to do. But for me personally, I just would never do that with somebody that I even thought wouldn't be there in the event that something were to happen. And like I said, people don't even consider that when taking that big of a risk. Again, I understand that sleeping around with people casually is like a big thing nowadays, but I just feel like, you know, if you're gonna hook up with random people or people that you haven't known all that well, you need to be protected at the very least. Again, I don't think people should be giving their bodies away to just any and everybody, and that goes for both genders. But I understand people are gonna do what they want to do. I understand that it's a different time now, but at the end of the day, like, you want to make sure that you're taking those precautions, because again, if something happens and you end up having a child, like, that child is going to be your number one responsibility.
I literally just got done talking yesterday on live about how so many pregnant women never get to have a good experience because they have a baby with a, and looky, it's men's on here showing what they can do.
So listen, this is my advice for today. Stop having children with people who you don't see marriage or a future with. Because what happens is you're going to have a child who's going to grow up in a 2-household family. He's going to be one way when he's with his mother. He's going to be one way when he's with his father. You know, that's going to just create dysfunction. If you're not ready to marry that person, stop just sleeping around. Stop opening your legs. Stop pulling your stuff out your pants, fellas. If you don't see a future with this person, because having a child with the wrong person is going to just cause you drama and agony. You're not going to be able to see your kids. Y'all going to be going back and forth. I'm telling you, man. So if you don't see a marriage with that person, stop shacking up.
But nobody ever said choose wisely who you're going to raise a family with, because you're going to be stuck with that person forever. No one ever told me that.
There's not, nobody sits down and says, hey, this is going to be a really important decision. And I would argue it's one of the most important decisions, who you decide to have children with and who you decide to be in a relationship with, because
it might be the most important.
I was talking to a single buddy of mine. I was like, listen, like, he was saying, oh, maybe I'll just have a kid. And I'm like, listen, if you don't just have, like, once you have the kid, you're parenting with that other person for, hopefully as long as the child is alive. Yeah. So
I think opposites attract sometimes when it comes to raising a family. Does your faith align? Do your virtues align? Does your character align? And it doesn't mean to say that somebody can come from a less than perfect background, but maybe they've done the work and realized that they're going to live differently. Or there's just so many things that the signs were so loud and are so there if we're just listening. And I don't know if we are as younger people. I don't know if that siren song is loud enough that we can actually hear it.
I think because you see so many parents out there who weren't necessarily prepared to be parents, whether it's prepared mentally, emotionally, financially, whatever the case may be, you're starting to see the effects of it. And you see a lot of kids growing up in homes where their parents just aren't taking care of them. They're not disciplining them. They're not, worried about their well-being. They're not worried about their education. And they're not worried about how the things that they do affect their children and how it could even affect their children in the future.
Having Black parents felt like I was born in this world on survival mode hard.
So many Black parents need to decolonize their parenting strategies, because a lot of the parenting strategies, especially the ones that use violence, both physical and emotional, stems from slavery. There's so much generational trauma within the Black household. And I love that I'm seeing younger generations of Black people interrogate that a lot more with their children. I think a lot of older generations obviously knew that this world hates Black people. And so their instinct was to go into tough love, which didn't even feel like love, it's just abuse, because I thought that it would give us better survival in the real world. Also, they were just trying to survive themselves in this world that hates Black people. I've been thinking about this a lot this past week, but growing up, like, I did not get love, obviously. It more so felt like I was living with like two coworkers who were above me in their position. And they didn't get love from their parents, and then their parents didn't get love from their parents. So what did I expect? A lot of y'all need to decolonize yourself before you go out here having kids.
Let me tell you why this generation is so messed up, and then boom, Uno reverse card to show you why we're really the problem. So my 11-year-old son is in my room, and I'm putting my clothes away, and I have my belt, and I was like, I'm gonna pop my belt to see what he does. So I do it, man. Pop! Unfazed. Like he didn't just hear the siren sound of butt whoopings across the world. Unbothered, like the owners of Milk and Honey. He's like Babyface on a Versus. So I bring it up to my therapist because obviously I'm bothered. And I was like, and this is what's wrong with this generation. They don't even understand how good they have it. And he says, so let me get this straight. You're frustrated that your son isn't surrounded by the fear of abuse and violence at the sound of a belt, but instead he sees you as a place of security and safety. See, this is why I don't like coming here.
And the fact that there was no sense of concern in regards to giving your very young child alcohol is just very, very alarming. And someone that would give their really young child alcohol, I'm sorry, they don't deserve to be parents. And yes, I don't want to go as far as to say take the child away, because I also know that, you know, children that end up in the foster care system sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes are worse off in the system than they are with their parents. But I don't know, like, again, the fact that they thought that this was okay, and the fact that they thought that it was okay to record and put online, it's like they really didn't think that through, or they really didn't believe that that was like a not okay thing to do. And I just feel like someone like that just should not be responsible for taking care of a child. It's just really sad to see how many children out there are being neglected, because people always talk about like the financials, right? Like, oh, well, as long as the child has food to eat and clothes on their back, that's all that matters. But no, I mean, that's just like a small, not a small portion, but like that's just a part of being a parent. I think that being there for your child, you know, in an emotional capacity is just as important as making sure they have everything that they need. And I feel like that's what a lot of kids are lacking. They're lacking that sense of comfort from their parents. They're missing, you know, quality time with their parents. They're missing that nurturing. I feel like a lot of children aren't being nurtured, and they're not being properly disciplined. Now, I'm not saying beat your kids, please. I'm not saying that, but in terms of, again, caring about how your child shows up in the world and shows up in society, you want to make sure that you're raising kids that treat other people with respect and treat themselves with respect. And you have to take the time to really instill that in your child in a healthy way.
From one cycle breaker to another, here are some gentle parenting tips for beginners. Number one, adjust your expectations. Kids have underdeveloped brains, they lack impulse control. I promise you, your child is not out to get you. They might seem like a little terrorist at times, but I promise you, keeping in mind age-appropriate behavior will just lower their stress levels drastically. For example, throwing food, age-appropriate. Throwing things in general, age-appropriate. Is it a good thing? No. Do we want to get hit in the head with a wooden block? Definitely not. But is it age-appropriate? Yes. Bear in mind, I'm not talking about stopping the behavior. That's a whole other thing. What I'm just trying to say is your child is not intentionally trying to give you a migraine. Heavy on the intentionality. Number two, learn your triggers. If you grew up in a toxic environment, there are a lot of things that a child will do that will possibly trigger you. Being able to recognize what triggers you can also help preventing a lot of outbursts, and also kind of help you understand when you need to take a break, when you need to take a breather, you know, when you need to step aside and kind of be like, Number 3, when we talk about validating emotions, okay, we are not talking about being permissive and letting your child be like, yeah, hitting's okay, I get that. No. Toddlers especially, like, they're learning how to understand their emotions, they're learning how to understand themselves. What we want for them is to understand the complexity of emotions and not feel bad for feeling these emotions. For example, anger. Anger itself is not a bad emotion. A tough one to deal with, yeah, but it's not a bad emotion. But it's just how you express that emotion. Hitting? Not okay. Throwing things at people? Not okay. Telling a child, I get that you're angry, but it's not okay to hit, isn't going to mean they're going to open up some fight club. No, they're going to understand that anger is an emotion that everyone feels. It's just how we need to deal with it. Number 4, boundaries. Contrary to popular opinion, gentle parenting essentially rests on setting boundaries. Like, boundaries are the way that your child understands what the expectations are as well, but also the consequence for crossing those boundaries. When it comes to boundaries as well, make sure you're consistent. Like, if you say one thing isn't okay, don't then change the next day, because for a child that's very confusing. It's like, can I do this on a Tuesday but not a Thursday? Like, what? Number 5 is kind of my favorite one, but compassion and communication. I grew up with because I said so, and honestly, there were so many times that I was told to do something and I was like, but why? Like, genuinely, why? I found that when I communicate with my toddler why we have to do something, she might sometimes still be upset, but it's drastically not as much as she would be if I just told her, do this shit because I said so. Remember those underdeveloped brains as well, like, they're here for the first time, so let's try and help them on that journey. And I've run out of time. I hope that helped.
I'm not raising no kid that expects other people to clean behind them. I also am trying not to pop this child, all right? But he keeps splashing this water, and so how do I deal with this gently? This is an example. We can splash in the pool. We can splash at the splash pad. We cannot splash in the tub. Okay? Lord Jesus, now he's slipping on the water. See, look at me. When you get water on the floor, it becomes dangerous because you can fall. I don't want you to fall and hurt yourself. Okay. I don't want to fall and hurt myself. Okay. So you gotta keep water off the floor. This is why you can't splash. Or people could get hurt. And I know you don't want to hurt people. Okay. Because you are competent. Confident. And considerate. Please consider me and everyone else by not splashing water on the floor, okay? Okay. Yes, Mommy? Yes, Mommy. Thank you. Child, I'm grateful. He cleaned that water up and ain't nobody get popped.
All right now. Look here. We finna go in Target. Listen. Now, I'm gonna get you something, but I don't need you in here acting a fool now. You understand? You can't act a fool. Not this time. Okay? Give me a high five. Thank you, big girl. Mwah.
And I don't think a lot of parents are doing that. Like, you know, we've seen time and time again, like, a lot of these kids, they're being raised through technology. They're being raised through social media. A lot of the parents are not raising them. And yes, there is an element of just the current society that we're in and the certain economic climate that we're in, where because parents are having to work so much, they don't have a lot of time to spend with their kids. A lot of the times they're sending their kids off to daycare or another family member, or sometimes a lot of times actually kids are being left home alone and, you know, having to almost raise themselves. Like, and I just feel like that, I feel like a lot of parents are just, they're not taking that time and effort and energy into truly nurturing and raising their child in the right way. And yes, when you're working multiple jobs and, you know, it's taking up all your time in the day, yes, I understand it makes it that much more difficult to take time out to make sure that, you know, they are getting that extra care and nurturing. But you literally have to. Like, I'm sorry, like, that there are so many sacrifices that you make as a parent, and I think that's why you see an influx of people choosing to not have children, because I think a lot of people are starting to realize how big of a commitment and a responsibility being a parent is. They're realizing how many sacrifices you have to make. You're literally sacrificing sleep, you're sacrificing time, you're sacrificing parts of yourself, you're sacrificing sometimes your mental health, you know. Like, you're sacrificing so much to make sure that this human being is being raised properly and is given, you know, everything that they need to succeed in life. And some people don't want to make those sacrifices. And unfortunately, a lot of those people who aren't willing to make those sacrifices are also the same ones having children. And that's why you see so many children acting up and not knowing how to behave and not knowing how to read and write, because no one is really investing in them. And I feel like that's why you see so many teachers as well being so passionate about this topic, and why they're like, listen, like, we need the parents to really be on our side, because truth be told, a lot of these teachers are the main ones that are trying to influence these kids in a positive way. Now, again, it's not all. I mean, you definitely have some horrible teachers out there. I mean, I've had a few horrible teachers, but for the most part, a lot of these teachers, they want to see these children evolve and become better. That's why they go into the profession in the first place, because they care and they want to be a part of that, but they can't do it alone.
Today was one of those days where I just could not believe what I caught on camera while filming, as I always do. I just want to say something to all pre-K and kindergarten teachers out there. Do not forget that these kids are still 4 and 5 years old. They still have big feelings and don't know how to deal with them yet in their little bitty bodies. So we have to meet them where they are, and we have to still care for them and love them and show them the affection that they need to succeed. Today I had a little friend that didn't make the right choice and got so upset about it. But instead of me just telling her to sit down, I'm going to comfort you, because that's what I know I will want somebody to do to my kid. So don't forget that they're little bitty people with really, really big feelings, and they don't know how to deal with them just yet. So that's what we're there to do, is to teach them how to deal with them, but also show them that same comfort and care that their mom will be giving them at this moment. So did I teach an entire lesson almost holding a little girl today? Yes, I did. But guess what? Did she leave from me smiling and happy to finish out her day? Yeah, when she could have just broken down like she was doing at first. So don't forget, love on your kids, y'all.
This teacher tells her students every morning to say something positive about themselves, and it will restore your faith in humanity.
Yes, you are. I matter. Yes, you do. I'm special. Yes, you are.
Deshaun. Because you could make it.
I told you my name is Deshaun. It's Big D.
Okay, and you know that I'm never going to be saying that, but.
I'm Big D.
Okay. Okay, let me ask you a question. You've been late 6 times in a row. What is going on, honey?
Why does it matter if I'm late?
There's other students here, and every time
Why does
you're
it matter
late,
if I'm late, though?
it matters a lot. It matters a lot to me. It matters to your fellow peers.
It don't matter to anybody but you. It don't matter to them if I'm late.
Does it matter to you
It don't
guys
matter to me if I'm late.
Does it matter to my classmates, your classmates, if he's late?
It matters.
Yeah, I'd like for him to be here on time with the rest of us. I mean, you miss things. Let me tell you something, Mike. Let me tell you, young man. You have a very bright future. And do not throw this all away. Look at me. Deshaun, look at me.
No. Just look at her, man.
Deshaun, I care.
I don't have to look at you, just talk.
Okay. I care
Just talk.
dearly for you. And
Why don't you just shut up? Oh, man,
please
come on
don't
now.
talk to your other students. Listen.
And that's why they always say, it takes a village to raise a child. And you don't have that anymore. You don't have those villages anymore that, and that's the other thing too, right? Is that even though it is mainly the parent's responsibility for raising a child, you also, you need that village. You need that extra support, whether it be from other family members, maybe from friends, family friends, or again, your teachers, your administrators. Like there's literally so much that goes into taking care of a child. And sometimes, just having the parents there isn't enough. Sometimes they need extra help. Sometimes they need, extra people, in that child's life to make sure that they are becoming the best version of themselves. And a lot of people they don't have that. And so you see a lot of parents just at their wits' end and almost giving up and not trying, because they're just overwhelmed and exhausted and they just don't want to deal with it. But at the end of the day, when you decided to lay down with that person and have unprotected intercourse, at that point, you should already in your mind accept that this could be a potential outcome that could happen, and I need to be prepared for it. And again, things happen, and I'm not saying that everybody is perfect and that it's the easiest thing in the world to, not partake in that. But at the end of the day, if you do end up having a child, whether you're ready or not, you're gonna have to force yourself to be ready. Like it is what it is, like for the sake of that child. And it's like if you don't have that mindset of being willing to make those sacrifices and do whatever it takes to make sure that your child is being taken care of and given everything that they need emotionally, financially, physically, to be there and to be present for that child, if that is not a commitment that you're willing to make, then you don't need to be having children. You need to do everything that you can to prevent that from happening, because once the child is here, it's no longer about you. And again, I know a lot of people are starting to see that, and they're now opting to not have children for that same reason. And I think that if more people would be real with themselves and understand that, like, having children, you know, it's not for everybody. It's not for everybody. And I think that if the people that know deep down that that's not what they want, if they would just be real with themselves and not make that decision, I think a lot more kids would be, you know, I think that things would be a little bit better.
When you think you have kids?
I'm not having kids.
What you mean you're not having kids?
I'm not having kids.
That's what you was born here to do.
No, I'm not.
Why would you not want to have kids?
Why would I?
I'm asking you.
I want to have kids. I don't see any benefit.
For giving somebody life?
You have a kid and your life becomes about the kid. I want my life to be about me.
Oh, you selfish.
That's okay.
And yes, I understand there are societal pressures. I understand that there's pressures from friends and family. Yes, I understand that there are even maybe certain religions or certain cultures that heavily push people into having children, and they almost make you feel as though it's a requirement to have a child. But trust and believe, at the end of the day, it is your body, your choice. And, you know, if you're in a partnership with somebody, like it's y'all's decision together. If the both of you decide that having children just is not for you, you don't feel equipped, you don't feel like you could do, or you just don't feel as though being a parent, you know, is in the cards for you. It's not something that you genuinely want. It's not something that you're willing to make sacrifices for. I don't see anything wrong with choosing not to have children.
As a woman, it's wild because all through like your teens and your early 20s, everyone's like, don't get pregnant, you get pregnant, your life's over. And then almost overnight, this like switch flicks where it's like, when are you having kids? Do you not realise you're 30 now? Yeah. It's like all your life you're told don't get pregnant, and then all of a sudden everyone's like, where's the baby? Yeah. You know? So yes, since getting married, even the short time in married already, you know, all the questions, and I actually don't take offence to those questions. I think I'm in this industry, I'm very open with my life, and, you know, I share everything else, so I understand it doesn't come from a bad place. And I think, as a woman, this is the guilt. Like, society guilts us, and I'm in this situation now where I'm in love with my job and I'm on a roll, and you know what it's like in this industry, like you need to make hay where the sun shines. I don't want to take, you know, time off. I don't want to, or have a young child and have to have that feeling of that
But you would like children.
I do want children.
So then you are going to have to do that.
But like at some point.
To stop preaching single motherhood to black girls, and so many black women came for me when
some of the worst advice I ever got in my early 20s was to just have your babies and get it out the way. Like, I was in a relationship at the time and I was in nursing school, and I feel like people was asking me more like, when you gonna have a baby, versus asking him when he gonna pop the question. Like, but it's like when you say, oh, I don't want to have a baby without a ring, it's like, oh, you bougie. No, I'm not bougie, but that's the standard. Stop acting like it's not. The fuck? Before I piss somebody off, there is nothing wrong with being a single mom. But as a young girl, as a young lady, like before the age of 25, most of those people are not planning to be single mothers. Now, it's one thing when you get in your 30s and 40s and you like, fuck it, I'm ready to have a baby with or without my man. Cool, do you. And the people who gave me that advice, or the people who was asking me questions about my uterus, were black women who were also like young single mothers. Why would you want that for me? Do you hate me?
We're a different generation than our parents. You know, people our age are having children later, period.
I get the science behind it, but shit, it sounds so crazy to be like, oh, she had her first baby at 40. Wow.
And how they're going to call it a geriatric pregnancy.
And play you out.
Like, I feel so young, like, and to have other people or society tell me that my clock is ticking, it's like, what the fuck out of my uterus.
Like, I'll even say for me, right? Like, I've always been very iffy about kids for this reason. I know how hard it is to raise a child. I've seen people talk about it. You know, I come from a single parent household and I never wanted to repeat that. Like, and again, coming from a single parent household, I want to make sure that, you know, if I have a child that, you know, I'm able to give them, you know, everything. And if I can't do that, I'm just not having a child. And for me, it's like, if I never get married, like for me, I refuse to have a child if I am not married to the person. Like, I need a ring on my finger before I decide to have a child. And for me, it's like, if that doesn't happen, if I never get married, I'm never having kids. And I'm perfectly okay with that. That doesn't bother me. It doesn't make me sad. I am perfectly okay with that if those are the circumstances, right? Like, I don't want a kid so bad that I'm willing to just lay down with anybody, or, you know, settling for somebody that I don't want to be with, or that I don't think would be a good father to my children. Like, to me, it's not worth it. There are some women out there that they want to be mothers so bad that they get to a certain age and they're like, look, if I gotta go to a sperm bank, or if I gotta do X, Y, and Z and just have the child on my own, like, I'll do that. I know Ebony K. Williams actually is an example of that. She is choosing to be a single mother by choice.
Black women are availing ourselves to all of the options that our hard work and circumstances currently afford us. And that means that single motherhood by choice is going to be an option that more and more Black women consider and even exercise. So anybody that's in their feelings about that can go ahead and start to process right now. Because Black women that have the privilege to embark upon this expensive and oftentimes lengthy process will increasingly decide to forego marriages and partnerships that do not serve us and that are not in our best interests. And now that bypassing those insufficient relationships does not have to come at the expense of motherhood, well, frankly, it's a whole new world. A world in which Black women are no longer subject to the desperation of being chose, because now we get to do the choosing. And as we choose, we do have to contend with the reality of a dismally small supply of Black sperm. Because most Black women on this journey, we want to create children that look like us and that look like our families, and that means we want Black sperm. And as we heard from Reese Brooks, it's the definition of slim pickings, and sometimes that means compromising on this aspect of your journey. Now, I am extremely fortunate that I was able to secure 2 vials of Black sperm from California Cryobank when I embarked on this part of my journey last fall. But I do know that I am an outlier. So I've got 2 concrete tips for single Black women who think this may be an option, either now or maybe later. Number 1, please check out Reproductive Village. It's a new Black-owned cryobank, and it's designed to help with this shortage of Black sperm. It's set to open its doors in D.C. later this year, and it will also have drop-off locations in Atlanta and Houston, Texas. And number 2, be proactive. I say go ahead and start looking right now for desirable Black sperm. You register with all 4 of the big cryobanks, and this includes California Cryobank, which I used, Seattle Sperm Bank, Fairfax Cryobank, and Zytex. Then you can scan the current options for Black sperm, and if you see some sperm that you like, I suggest go ahead and buying at least 2 vials right now. Even if you do not intend to use them anytime soon, trust me, it's better to have them than to be without them when the time comes. And listen, if you never need them for whatever reason, what a wonderful gift to give to a friend or a sorority sister in need. And also, most of those banks, they allow you to resell the sperm back to the bank itself. Listen, I know that many are going to question or even indict the decision that I and many other Black women are making to become single mothers by choice. But I, like the women you heard from today, go by the creed of no regrets. I have, and many Black women have, too much love, too many resources, and too rich of a community not to share these gifts with children of our own, children that will one day, no doubt, enrich and contribute to the next generation of Black America.
And I've seen a lot of that circling around too, like single mothers by choice. But honestly, I support that more than someone that's having a child that doesn't want the child. Because at least if you're that dedicated to being a mother that you're willing to have the child on your own, that is actually something that I mean, granted, neither one of those situations are ideal, right? Like, again, call me old school, old fashioned. I just think that people should, if you're not gonna get married, at least have, like, be with somebody that you could see, you know, spending a lifetime with, even if you don't want to go through the paperwork. Like, I'm definitely in support of 2-parent households, but whatever that looks like, right? I think, but ultimately, I think that should be the goal, is that, you know, you have that family unit. But again, things happen and times have changed. And so, you know, if you are somebody that desires motherhood that badly, I'm not going to sit up here and tell you to not pursue that because you weren't able to find your person. Like, if being a mother is your dream and it's something that you really want to do and it's something that you're willing to pursue, you know, by yourself, then I can at least have respect for you in that regard. And I feel like those type of people are more likely to make sure that their child has everything that they need because they've actually, like, they have that, like, they care. Like, they care, and, you know, they have taken the time to really consider what that would look like, and, you know, the fact that it's that important to them that they're willing to do it on their own. I think, you know, shout out to them. I could never do that, but, you know, shout out to them. But yeah, like, I really think people need to really evaluate what parenthood really entails and what it takes. And if it's something that you are just like, yeah, no, I'm cool, I don't want to do that, then it's okay. It's okay to not have children. Like, it's fine, because again, for me, if I'm not married, I'm not having a child. But even if I'm married and my finances don't align to have a child, I'm still not having the child. Sorry, I'll just be married and childless. Like, I want to be able to give my child the world. I want to be able to, you know, make sure that we always got food on the table, make sure they can do all the extracurricular activities they want to do. Like, if they want to do cheerleading, football, soccer, ballet, or all those at one time, I want to be able to have the money to fund it. I want to be able to have the time to take them to practices. Like, I want my child to have access to everything they want to do. And if I can't do that, to me, being a parent is not worth it. If I have to struggle, and granted, parenting is going to be a struggle regardless, but you know what I mean. Like, there's some people out here that got 5 kids and they all got to share one piece of bread. To me, being a parent is not that deep, but it's not that serious. And again, most of those people that are in those situations, they didn't choose to be in those situations per se. Like, it's not like they're like, oh, I can't afford to have a child. And, you know, like, most of the time when people are in those situations, it's just because of the circumstances that they're in. They don't, like, people, I don't think people choose to be broke with kids. I think they just unfortunately end up in those situations. You know, people lose their jobs. Things happen. So I'm not saying that it's intentional. But what I'm saying is that if I can do what I can on my end to prevent that as much as possible, then that's what I'm going to do. And if it gets to a point where, you know, I'm taking care of myself financially, I'm taking care of the bills enough to where, you know, I feel comfortable. But then when I factor in having a child and, you know, doing their doctor's appointments and daycare and diaper, like, once I start to add all that up and I'm looking at my finances and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna, like, not be able to really eat if I bring a child into this world, then I'm not having the child. Period. Like, and so, yeah, I do see more and more, at least in my generation, I feel like more people are starting to understand what it truly means to be a parent. And for a lot of us, it is because of how we were brought up and how we were raised. And, you know, we saw our parents struggle, or maybe we came from situations that weren't ideal and we don't want to repeat that. I feel like Gen Z and even some millennials, I feel like, you know, we've made it a point to not repeat some of the trauma that we went through. You know, we don't want to put you know, another human being through that. So a lot of us are saying, you know what, I'm just gonna opt to not do that, or at the very least making sure that I have everything in place to where if I do decide to have a child, that I'm able to be my best self for them. You see more and more people doing that. I mean, I've even seen articles about how people are having babies way less because of that. Like, people are starting to actually consider, like, okay, and like, it takes a lot to be a parent. Let me actually consider this. And so yeah, I kind of went on a little side tangent, but yeah, them giving that baby that alcohol is just not, I'm not here for it. I don't think it's funny. I don't think it's comical. And luckily, because you know, Twitter is, you never know what you're gonna get on Twitter, but luckily people passed the vibe check and they were not here for it as well. Most people were definitely upset about seeing the baby's reaction to it. Like, and again, like, y'all know how alcohol feels and how it tastes, and just imagine giving that to a young child. Like, that's just like, that's not okay. And I do wonder, like, I mean, I guess the parents had to have thought that it would be like a one-time funny thing. I hope it's a one-time thing and never again. But yeah, I don't know what they were thinking. Clearly they weren't thinking, and I'm kind of hoping that they saw the online response and they realized that that was really dumb, that was very dangerous, and that they shouldn't do things like that. I'm hoping that's what they took from that, because the only other option is that they instead got mad and defensive, and that they're gonna keep doing stuff like that but just behind closed doors. And so yeah, I don't know, I really feel for that kid. I hope that, because also too, it's like to see that happen, like the fact that they went as far as to give that child alcohol. Now I'm thinking, what other bad influences is this child being subjected to? Like, are they, you know, constantly playing Sexy Red in that child's ear? Are they being inappropriate around that kid? Like, it does make me question the type of environment that kid is being raised in. I highly doubt that alcohol incident is like the only negative thing that child has been exposed to. And so yeah, I do feel for that child, and I feel for a lot of children that are being raised in very negative and toxic environments. It's just really, really sad to see, especially on social media. But yeah, let me know you guys' thoughts in the comments down below about this whole mess of a situation. If you guys agree, disagree with anything that I said, leave in the comments down below respectfully. And if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you guys go ahead and give it a big thumbs up. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next video.